10.
Got it. Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to welcome everyone to sort of this maybe usual but unusual meeting. And I thank you for being so flexible in joining this Zoom. Welcome to all of the board members and to the staff. I'd say thank you. I would ask that you mute your phone at this time. And if you wish to speak during the meeting, if you can just go to the chat or raise your hand or something so I'll know. But if you can mute your phone at this time, I'd appreciate it. Your screen. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Let me talk to you about that.
Are you there? Okay. And then if you're having technical difficulties, Craig Grcc is in the background and Craig will help us work through. So just either send me a chat or raise your hand and we can get Craig to help. Everyone with me? The next thing, and this is just part of the housekeeping, I just want to say, remember this is an open meeting, so please refrain from making comments in the chat room. We need to do that. All of the communication needs to happen right here in the board meeting. And then we will do public comments twice during this meeting, follow our normal protocol. And so there will be a chance early in the agenda for anyone to make public comments, and then we'll do it again at the end. Guess we are all in agreement. Jerry, I would ask that you mute your computer at this time, or Craig can mute you. And so I want to see if there's anyone, I'm going to check to see if there's anyone here, the participants that I need to let in. I think everyone is here. I think everyone is okay. And if so, then I would call this meeting to order. Again, I say good afternoon and thank you for being so flexible. Julie Anderson, if you could take the roll call for me, please.
All right, I moved here. Sorry about that. I'm Mayor Bliss.
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas. Mr. DeYoung.
Yes.
Mr. Faber.
Here.
Dr. Gorman.
Here.
Ms. Grant. Mr. Huizinga.
I'm here.
Mr. McComb. Mr. McComb.
He's here.
I saw him. Then I've got Ms. Seeger.
Here.
Ms. Pugh Walters.
Here.
And Chairperson Neo.
Present. And if I could just say, Christian Grant sent a text message, and with the storm last night, she lost her internet connection. And so she's still trying to work with AT&T. So she apologizes if she is not able to join us. Okay, good. I would like to ask for approval of the minutes from our February 20th board meeting.
I move approval. This is Diana Seeger.
This is Rosalind. I support.
Thank you both. And then public comments, and this is my first time, you guys, so I may need a little help here. I want to see if we have any public, yes, I'm sorry, Julie. Yes, please.
That's all right. That's all right. Mayor Bliss.
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas excused. Mr. DeYoung.
Approved.
Mr. Faber.
Yes.
Dr. Gorman.
Yes.
Ms. Grant excused. Mr. Huizinga.
Yes.
Mr. McComb. Ms. Seeger.
I'll send Jerry a text.
Certainly. Ms. Seeger.
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters.
Yep.
And Chairperson Weatherall Neo.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You bet.
And now we will ask if we have any public comments. I don't see anyone out here.
I do see a hand raised from an attendee.
Please.
He is a board
Yeah.
member, Craig, if you can bring him in.
Oh, my apologies.
Yep. He's trying to get in.
One moment, Mr. Cuevas, we'll get you in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Omar, and welcome.
Thank you.
So I would move to the next item on the agenda. Can you all see the agenda? We thought that we should make it public so everyone would have it right in front of them. But I would like to ask Dr. Bill Pink, our president of Grand Rapids Community College, to come forward, please.
Good afternoon. It is
Good
so
afternoon, President.
Yes, Superintendent, it's good to see you. I got to say that because having you around and still around is
Yeah, thank
helpful
you.
to me. So thank you for that. And it's good to see all of you virtually. If we can't see each other physically, we'll have to do virtually. Thank you so much for giving me a couple of minutes just to give a quick update on our institution, our college. As you can imagine, we're not unlike any other institution in the country right now, coming out of having switched over to virtual toward the end of the winter semester. And this summer, GRCC, we're fully online this summer in our both summer sessions, with a little bit of our face-to-face going on here in the coming weeks with some of our classes that were suspended due to COVID-19 in the winter, now finishing those up with some very strict protocols. We are still in a shutdown phase as a campus. We'll start in on our we have a 5-phase plan of bringing people back to campus, and we'll start that this coming Monday in starting to bring very few of our employees back to campus as we start inching our way and digging out very methodically yet calculated. I want to also say thank you to this board for this continued partnership, because I will tell you that just because of COVID-19, that doesn't shut down an institution, and it certainly doesn't shut down initiatives that need to happen. Evan Macklin on our staff at GRCC, and now the Promise Zone coordinator, does a phenomenal job in the position that he held with GRCC, and he is and will continue to do a phenomenal job in this space because of what he knows of our community and what he knows of our community college. And so that's a great combination. I commend you on his selection as the director. I will tell you that with his work, we just met yesterday, and with his work, he continues to plug away at this with families who are eligible for this, to start in on this Promise Zone initiative this coming fall, and continuing to stay in contact, make more contact, our financial aid offices and such, trying to do all we can in virtual environments to reach out to students and to make sure they understand what this opportunity is. I will tell you that we are, as I said, are like other institutions in our country when it comes to the fall semester, and seeing some slowness in terms of students across the board when it comes to enrollment and getting things set for the fall. We see a bit of slowness in that, like many of my colleagues across the country, yet we do believe, as we continue to see our enrollment reports, we do believe that as the summer progresses, and as people get more and more comfortable with what it means to be around people again, and we have a stretch of time right now that we have to try to get at that, so too we think that we'll see more and more enrollment this summer. A lot of our classes this summer will be in an online format, as many of my colleagues will be, but GRCC still plans to have some on-ground classes as well. Probably won't look like we typically do in other semesters in terms of what that number looks like, but we're determined to try to get to that place in the most safe and secure manner for our staff, faculty, as well as most important, our students. I will say, as I conclude, I will say that as I've been thinking about the Promise Zone, and as I've shared with people in this community, given where we are right now as a country and as a city and as a community, and what we are looking at in terms of what I boil down to is equity and opportunity for communities that have disparities, and that's what we're talking about in terms of so much of what we're seeing today. Disparities in many ways. I think initiatives like a Promise Zone truly serve as an answer to what we see today going on, because this Promise Zone will be a poverty changer and a situation changer for many of our students in this area. That's why I'm excited that GRCC is a big part of this, because the work that we have done for over 100 years, it will continue. But the work that we're going to do with this Promise Zone, that means it is that much more magnified and that much more important. And I think it will be one of those initiatives in this city that helps us get to the point where our communities and our Black and brown communities in this city will feel like that they are indeed able to reach this economy that Grand Rapids brags about so much, and that is bragged about this community in so many ways nationally. Best place to do, you name it. We have to give these young men and women the opportunity to truly know how they engage in such a successful economy. Because right now, we've got to dig into that. And I think the Promise Zone and the work that you are doing alongside with us as a proud partner, I think this is what gets at some of those very questions. So I remain excited, and I hope you remain excited as well. And if there are any questions that I can answer from my perspective, I would love to answer any of those from the board at this time.
Dr. Pink, I would like to say thank you for those words. Very encouraging. We have just found partnering with Grand Rapids Community College to be just awesome. And I agree. I do think that this will change the lives of children in this community. So I thank you for your partnership, and I thank you for your staff. And Evan is awesome.
Yes, he is. Rock star. If there are no questions, Superintendent Neal, thank you for your work, and to this board, thank you for your work. You'll see at some point I'll duck out because this day is not over yet. And so
That's right.
I appreciate each and every one of you. I will stay on for a little while because I want to keep my nose in it a little bit as long as I can, just to be a support to our people from with this board. So thank you so much, Superintendent. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Dr. Pink. And so Lisa Freiberger has been awesome. And so Lisa may be in this chat with us. I'm not real sure, but we have Lisa, Evan, and David that will speak. Either one or two of them, three of them maybe, will speak to that, but they've all been great. Thank you. So next we have the Grand Rapids Community College update on financial aid. And so I'm going to ask Evan, our director, to come forward, Evan, and then anyone else that should join Evan in the conversation, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Neal, and thank you to the members of the Promise Zone board. I am equally as excited to be here with all of you this afternoon. Dr. Pink, thank you for your kind words, and Ms. Neal, thank you as well. I really appreciate that. I'm excited to be doing this work, to say the least. This has been quite the rewarding experience to help the new students get started, and to know that they have a scholarship waiting for them here in the fall semester, and that they're going to be able to get through at least their first 2 years debt free. And so I really appreciate what this board has done, and I continue to love this work. I'm very passionate about it. So again, I just want to reiterate my excitement there. I'm going to keep my update rather short because my colleague David DeBoer from Financial Aid is here, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the memorandum he sent out, that I sent out on his behalf. But he did a great job reporting on some of the financial aid data. But just overall, in terms of some of the things that we're working on at the college to help support Promise Zone students, there's quite a bit of work. And so, as Dr. Pink mentioned, even though COVID is here and it's certainly shut down the physical operations of the campus, we haven't stopped serving students from a distance. And so many of our services have turned to Zoom platforms or email or text messages. And so to give you a few examples, our financial aid specialists are meeting with students one-on-one via Zoom. Our academic advisors are meeting one-on-one via Zoom. I worked with our new student orientation coordinator to design and implement Promise Zone new student orientations for all of our Promise Zone high schools. So we just had 3 of those this week and 3 last week. And during those orientations, what we try to do is give students an idea around the FAFSA, why it's important to complete, because the Promise Zone is a last dollar scholarship. We also talk a lot about academic planning, and we also show the students how to navigate our online center to build course schedules, how to identify what financial aid awards they have. And so it's really a comprehensive program, but it is being done online right now. So, you know, we certainly have had to change what we've done in the past with our in-person orientation program. So, but we're still trying to meet that student need. Some of the other awesome things that are going on between my office and David on the call with us, we've sent out multiple email and text message campaigns to continue to nudge students, whether they have completed the FAFSA, they haven't completed it, or let's say they're caught in the verification process. We're continually outreaching to these students to get them to move forward with the next step. As of today, just to kind of give you a glimpse of the data, so you may have seen early, I want to say it was in March, we sent out a news release, and I think Josh sent that to the board, that we have 1,002 eligible Promise Zone students. So that's exciting. First of all, out of those 1,002 students, 530 have matriculated to GRCC for the fall semester already. And that number continues to grow. So I'm very excited about that. Our original goal, or what we thought we might see, is that 247, or not 247, but 267 actually take advantage of the promise. And so I think we're well on our way to surpass that goal of ours. And we're probably looking closer at 400, 450, somewhere in there. So really excited about this work. Again, really excited to see the number of students that are taking advantage of the scholarship. And then last but not least, because it is a last dollar scholarship, the FAFSA data, we've had 269 complete their FAFSA, so more than half. So we're very excited about that as well. David's going to talk a little bit more about the report that he created, which happened to be about a week and a half ago now. So at that time, there were 243 that had completed the FAFSA. So just under 2 weeks, we've already had an additional 20 plus complete their FAFSA. And so now that many of these seniors are finishing their high school career, they're starting to think GRCC, and we're seeing that across the board. We're not, not just with Promise Zone students, but many of the students in our West Michigan region are now starting to tackle whatever action items they have to do to finish up their enrollment with the college. And so I'll stop there for a brief second and see if there's any questions for me, but I really want to transition it. Excuse me. I want to transition over to David to address the financial aid report he provided.
Okay, I paused just a couple of minutes to allow for any questions. So David DeBoer, Executive Director of Financial Aid at GRCC. Very excited to be here. Allow me to introduce myself just briefly, since this is my first meeting. I started at GRCC just on April 1. So just as the college was transitioning to off campus, I came on board. But I have over 25 years of financial aid experience. I've worked in higher ed since 1993. So I'm born and raised in Grand Rapids, so I'm incredibly excited and very motivated to be involved in this process of helping students with the Grand Rapids Promise Zone. Almost from day one, probably literally on day 2, Evan and I already started having some contact with each other about this. And on a weekly basis, I share information, he gives me information, we keep the data updated. So in terms of the report, you can see the type of data. I won't get into all the details other than to say we share a lot of key information between financial aid and Evan's office to make sure that we're doing what we can to help students out. And there's more behind the summary data that you've seen so that we know exactly where students stand and helping them through the process. Yes, there's multiple communications going out weekly updates. In fact, just earlier today, Evan sent me an updated list. Tomorrow morning, I'll update it with financial aid data, and we will have, we'll look at that report Friday afternoon. Some additional information or contact that's going on. A few weeks ago, we sent a letter under my signature out to the parents and guardians of students. So a lot of contact so far has been with high school guidance counselors and with the students directly. And so we thought we would send out a communication directly to parents to see, just give that one more piece of contact to see if that could encourage a few students to complete the FAFSA. And that did have some positive results. But I bring that up as an example of how we're looking at multiple ways to contact the students and the parents and guardians to make sure that people do not miss out on this opportunity. To Evan's point, yes, virtual appointments. In fact, about a week ago now, Evan and I were on a call with a student where we did a screen share where both Evan and I were able to help the student correct something on his FAFSA so that it could get submitted and sent over to GRCC. That's just one example of what my team is doing on a regular basis with students, to all students, but especially the Greenwich Promise Zone students, to help them get ready for fall. One other little piece of this is this morning, I met with a couple of my team leaders to look at our communication to say, okay, we have some regular communication, what more can we do? And so we're looking at text messaging, even working with Evan to get some Facebook messages, videos out there, any type of communication, maybe even Instagram, some of that, just so that we can reach students in whatever space they are in, to make sure that they know that we are here to help. So I want to just really communicate that Evan and I are working literally shoulder to shoulder. Well, maybe not literally, but definitely virtually shoulder to shoulder. And that we share information, and that the financial aid team is helping students and reaching out to students so that they do not miss out on this opportunity. And those are some of the comments I wanted to make. Again, available for questions. Yep.
And as you still might be formulating questions for David, I did want to share one more important update. Not only are we looking at the access of the Promise Zone students and making sure that they get started, but we are starting to look at how are we going to make sure that they're successful. And so I've worked with our academic advising team to get 4 Promise Zone advisors assigned to these students as they onboard at the college. And so those 4 Promise Zone students will work with these students to identify career interests, help them create plans that will satisfy their program requirements, and really just serve as a resource. Like I said, once they get here in the fall semester, somebody that will know their story, know who they are, and be a constant point of contact for them in addition to me. I don't plan on stopping what I'm doing. So I certainly want to be a coach to them and a resource, but our advising team will also be helping. And then one other student success strategy, I guess you could say, is our office of our chief of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion office. She's going to be reaching out to these students to let them know about the services that are available through her program, and specifically highlighting the ALAS program, which is designed to support Latinx students, but it's open to anyone. And so she's going to be reaching out before fall semester gets started to let the students, just inform them of the services that they offer.
Nice, thank you. Thank you very much for that report to the CC staff. If there are no questions from the board members, then I would ask that Josh Spencer, Josh, if you can come on and provide an update on our fundraising efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as everyone knows, we do have to raise $3 million to meet our obligation under the Michigan Promise Zone Act to cover the liability for the first 2 years. So we've been doing that since we approved the development plan and it was approved by the state. And despite COVID, it's been going very well. The donor community has been very receptive, and I definitely want to thank the chairperson as well as Mayor Bliss, Mr. Heisiga, and Ms. Walters for all the work they've been doing in helping cultivate donors, develop donor strategy, with their lead. We have $1 million committed here today. We have 2 million actually pending. So that's the entire goal. Now we know not to depend on every ask coming through. So we have more prospects. We anticipate that a majority of the asks will be made by the end of June. One exception, just because of a grant deadline, will be a little bit later. So that everything is progressing nicely. The feedback has been very positive, and the donors definitely see the case that we're making for this investment.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to Josh and Sandy and to the team. They've worked really hard. We've all worked really hard. But I say thank you on behalf of these children. It is going very well. And thank you to this community. People have been willing to step up for these children. And so I say thank you. If there are no questions here for Josh, then I'm going to ask that we move to the action items. And there are a lot. It shouldn't take very, very long, but there are a lot. So I just want to say that in advance, we have quite a few here. But the very first one, I am pleased to reaffirm our appointments, if possible, for Mayor Roslyn Bliss and Jerry McComb to a 4-year position on the Promise Zone Board. And so if I could, first, I just want to ask the mayor if she would speak and give me a yes. And the same for Jerry before we take a vote, please.
Thank you, Superintendent Neal. Hello, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to continue to serve on this important board.
Awesome.
Thank you for asking me to continue to serve, as I do think that this is incredibly important work now more than ever.
Thank you. Awesome, Mayor. Mr. McComb.
Thank you. I would love to do this. I appreciate it.
Nice.
I'm with the kids all the time. I'm in the community, and I think it's a good opportunity for me to be a part. And again, thank you for considering me.
Thank you both. If I could have a motion to accept both Mayor Roslyn Bliss and Principal Jerry McComb, please.
This is Diana Seeger. I approve. I mean, I
Awesome. Thank you, Diana.
Yeah.
Can we get a second?
Support.
Thank you, Omar. If we can take a vote. Julie, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Heisinger,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. Our bylaws, it states that we have to have the board approve every year our chairperson, vice secretary, and treasurer. And so I would move that we at this time move to elect our 4 officers. And I would start with looking for a nomination for the chairperson for this.
I would like to make that nomination, and I would like to nominate our present chairman, Teresa Weatherall Neal.
And I accept that nomination. Thank you, Mr. Heisinger. Do I have any other nomination for the chair? Seeing none, Julie, will you please take the roll?
Do we need to do a motion and a support?
Yes, please.
I so move. This is Kate.
Kate Faber, support.
Perfect. All right.
We have is our vice chairperson. And I would like to make a motion to ask J.C. Heisinger to accept the motion for vice chair.
So I would be honored to serve in whatever role you would like me to serve.
Thank you. Awesome. So I would like to know, do I have any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing that there are none, I would like to then ask Julie, do I need to just take a roll, or do I need to accept the motion once again?
I think we need to do a motion.
I so move. This is Omar Cuevas.
Thank you.
I'd support. This is Kate.
Thank you. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes. Thank you. We are to the we are now to the place of treasure. You guys, I'm hearing something in my ear, so hold on one sec. I mean, let's keep going. I need to go. Let me see. We may need to go back, but for the treasurer, I am going to ask Kate Pugh Walters if you would be willing to serve for one more year as the treasurer.
Sure, I'd be happy and honored.
Awesome. Good, good. Are there any other nominations? Seeing that there are none, I would like to have a motion to accept Kate Pugh Walters as the nomination for treasurer.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Wait.
And then who made the support? I'm
I
sorry.
did. Sorry, it's Rosalind.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes, yes, thank you. Julie, I need to make a correction. So I'm going to say it now. I told you guys I'd never done this before, but on my notes here, I had JC. I would like to go back if I can, and I don't know how to do this because actually Tom was the vice president or vice chair. And Tom, you did a wonderful job. And I would like to ask you to do that again if we can go back. And then JC, I would like to make a nomination for you as the secretary again. So Julie, can you help me out with?
I think we need to strike that original.
All right, so I will start with vice chair. And I'm going to, do I need to undo something, Julie, before I do something again?
Did I withdraw?
Can you withdraw, please?
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay,
Make
I
it
will
easy for
withdraw.
me, you guys.
Thank
All right.
you.
I am retired. I'm not used to a Zoom meeting. I'm sorry to the public. But I would like to make a motion to nominate Tom DeYoung from the Christian schools as the vice chair of this Promise Zone once again. Tom, do you please accept?
Happy to serve.
Awesome. Thank you. Do I have anyone else? Well, I didn't think so after all of that. I apologize, you guys. And so I will make a motion for the vice chairperson for Tom DeYoung to please serve in this position.
And I'll support that.
Awesome. Thank you. Can I have a vote on that?
Absolutely. Mayor Bliss, Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
With grace given to Superintendent Neal, yes, you are
Nice.
absolutely, you are just doing fine. So don't worry.
And you know I'm worrying over here, Diana. You know that
I
well.
know you are. So just know. Come on.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yeah.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes.
Awesome.
So with that, Julie, I will now brings us to the election of secretary. And so with that, I would like to nominate J.C. Heisinger as secretary for the Promise Zone.
I will be glad to accept.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else that would like to step up?
And I'll make the right motion now.
Thank you, go.
Support. Looking for a support.
Support, Ron Gorman.
Thank you, Dr. Gorman. All right, the roll. Here we go. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Miss Grant, Mr. Heisinger,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Miss Seeger,
Yes.
Miss Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and our humble chair, Weather O'Neill.
Yes, yes.
Perfect,
And
thank you.
again, I apologize. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to make that correction. Thank you. So we have gotten through the first and second under the action items, but that brings us to the approval of the Grand Rapids Promise Zone policies, and that is number 3. And so I'm going to ask for Evan, if he can address this, if in fact there are any questions, or Evan, if you'd like to just give an overview quickly, please.
Yeah, just a quick overview. There were, in our development plan, there were some things that weren't specifically addressed. It didn't necessarily indicate when the student had to have a FAFSA on file or what 50% meant. So we try to put some language around that. And you know, the eligibility percentage, for example, in policy 1.4 now talks about how 50% equates to covering 30 credits versus somebody that might be 100% and they would get 60 credits covered. So it's just really outlining some specific details that weren't addressed in a development plan. And I think you all had a week to review some of these, so I can address any specific questions you have regarding any of these policies, or I can go one by one if you would like me to.
I don't think it's necessary unless board members have any questions. I would ask if you have questions. And if not, then I would make a motion to approve the Promise Zone scholarship policies.
Support.
The roll. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Miss Grant, Mr. Heisinger,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Miss Seeger,
Yes.
Miss Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weather O'Neill.
Yes, thank you, Julie, for that. The next one, you guys, it is really just an amendment to our bylaws, and that is to allow us to have virtual meetings for future meetings. So even post COVID, we would like to be able to do this virtually. So it's just to amend to say that we can have these virtual meetings. And so I would ask for someone to make a motion, or you have the right to ask questions as well.
This is Kate. I would so move.
Thank you.
I would support. This is Diana.
Thank you. All right, I'll take the roll. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Mr. Heisinger,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Miss Seeger,
Yes.
Miss Pugh Walters.
Yes.
Perfect. And Chair Weather O'Neill.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the next one, which is the accounting MOU with the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And I'm not sure if Larry O is on this or not. I can't tell. Larry Oberst, if you are on, if you could answer any questions. Thank you, Larry. If you could answer any questions or just give a brief overview quickly of what this is about so we can move to the next.
I'm sorry, Teresa, which one?
We are on the approval of the Grand Rapids Public Schools accounting MOU.
Oh, yeah. It's a simple MOU. The intention is over the life, at least the near-term life of the promise zone, the accounting needs are not that significant in terms of contributions and ultimately tax dollars into the promise zone, and then primarily scholarship payments out and maybe some operating expenses. So our GRPS accounting system allows for us to set up, separate funds that we could set up. Promise zone is a separate fund within our accounting system and essentially be the accounting function for the promise zone. And the MOU just lays out what we would do. There are some charges to the promise zone. That's basically to cover the cost of my people administering the stuff and making sure the accounting's appropriate. And then at some point down the road, when there is the required first financial audit, I've also suggested that we could just, the audit for the promise zone could just piggyback on our external audit, since it's the same systems that they would be auditing, which would probably result in a reduced cost for the promise zone for their financial audit down the road.
Thank you, Larry. I would make a motion to approve the accounting MOU with the Grand Rapids Public Schools.
I'll support it.
I'll take the roll. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Favor,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weather O'Neill.
Yes. Thank you, Julie. The next one is Larry O. It's for you as well, and that is the approval of the PNC Bank as a financial institution for the Promise Zone Authority. And so if you could briefly.
Yeah, again, Promise Zone needs to establish their own banking relationship, and my recommendation, we as a district had actually gone through an RFP process about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and selected PNC as our banking provider. They've been a tremendous partner with the district in our banking needs. And I had a conversation with management of PNC, and they'd be more than happy to establish relationship with the Promise Zone. Considering we already had that relationship and that the district would be handling the accounting matters, my perspective just makes sense to consider PNC as a Promise Zone banking partner. So that would be my recommendation to this board.
Thank you.
Chairperson,
Yes.
I have a question. I'd just like to know, maybe Josh can provide information if any, or PNC, if any financial institution has invested in this work.
Has what? I'm sorry.
Invested. Have they committed to support this work that we're doing? Any financial institution?
We have not asked or received any financial commitment from any financial institution.
And I will say, with the with respect to the donors at this time, we have had a almost a short list of people that we have asked, Omar. So we have not put a broad ask out there, in fairness to any institution other than those that we've called.
Thank you.
Julie, take the vote, please.
Motion and support.
Oh, I did make a motion. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Support, Tom
So
DeYoung.
Okay, Tom DeYoung, got it. All right, the roll. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Favor,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
And Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was muted, Julie.
Thank you.
That brings us to approval of reimbursement to the Grand Rapids Public Schools for our Canary consulting contract. And I would ask Larry Olberst as well if there are any questions or if you would like to go over something with.
Again, I think the board is aware that the Promise Zone Authority had engaged, or we had engaged on the behalf of the board at that time, Canary Consulting, to help with all the setup and early administration of the Promise Zone Authority. We as a district had essentially advanced the funds, if you will, and this is just with the understanding that once it was established, that would be considered an operating expense of the Promise Zone Authority, and that reimbursement would be made at that time to the Grand Rapids Public Schools.
Thank you, Larry. I would ask if someone would like to make a motion for us to reimburse the Grand Rapids Public Schools.
So moved.
Support.
I'll support it.
I've got Mayor Bliss as supporting.
Good.
All right, I'll take the roll. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Heisinger,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes. Thank you, Julie.
you.
We are at the point of approval for our 2021 budget, and I would ask Josh, I keep saying coming forward, but Josh, if you could take it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the act requires that this board approve an annual operating budget prior to the start of the fiscal year, which is July 1 to June 30th of every year. We have prepared a budget here. Generally, it follows the same budget that was in the development plan. The major difference being the updated student projections, which is based on 404 students as opposed to 267. Surprisingly, the increase has not had a large impact on the financials because so many higher number or percentage of students qualify for FAFSA than we originally anticipated. So that is why the overall $3 million goal hasn't changed. And so I laid out, kind of itemized the different calculations in the memorandum, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Seeing that there are no questions, then I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved. Support.
Okay. All right, Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Heisinger,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes. Thank you. The next one is to approve our 2021 meeting schedule. And so Josh, I would ask you to discuss.
Similarly, the act also requires that this board approve and post in a public meeting minutes the annual meeting schedule. So proposing a quarterly meeting schedule again for this next fiscal year, September 10th, December 10th of 2020, and March 11th and June 10th of 2021, all at 2:30, all at the GRPS administration building.
Thank you, Josh. And so I would ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support it. Dave Faber.
Faber. Or Mr. Faber, thank you. All right, I'll take the roll. Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Ms. Seeger, Ms. Pugh Walters.
Yes. Yes, I said yes.
Oh, perfect. All right. And then Chair Weatherall Neal.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we are on the last action item, and that is the approval of Reagan marketing proposal. And I'm going to ask Josh to speak to this. We did have questions and comments, several comments about the bringing this to the board. So I'm going to ask Josh to speak to this before we take a vote. Thank you.
So we issued a public RFP to secure proposals from qualified firms. And a subcommittee was developed and included the names in the memorandum. And we received 8 proposals. The committee selected 3 finalists that they interviewed and then convened to make a recommendation back to this board. You know, Reagan Marketing was recommended, and I love. I'm just gonna briefly recap maybe the feedback from the committee, and I love Omar to speak as he was on that committee. You know, overall, the strategy that we felt was sound. They took in consideration the need to provide resources to the school and community partners. And so we really like that they were thinking about the marketing channels and developing assets that are useful to kind of empower as many organizations and individuals to share the message as possible. And so I'd like maybe Omar to say a little bit about his experience.
I appreciated the process, making sure that not only were we looking at the capacity to take on this project, but could we have a partner that understood the mission and vision and how broad the community that was going to be receiving this information and the assets that we're going to have to put together. So we had to challenge some of the candidates on their commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, showcase some of their work, and we landed on, in this case, with Reagan Marketing. And still, we felt that there was still an opportunity for them to encourage them to go through some training as well, so that they understand the importance it is for this committee to deliver an excellent experience to a diverse population that we serve through this scholarship as well.
I would like to just add more than encourage. I think that it really should be a part of the contract. And I also think that I would like to see them partner with another firm. There are smaller firms out there, and I think that this would be an excellent opportunity. And I also would ask Diana, through the Channel Scholars program, they've done an excellent job in just really marketing. And so if there is anyone that, a recommendation that could come from the work that we've done, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, we can provide information on that, Teresa.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we do that for the children in this community. And so with that, then I would ask if there is a motion to approve the Reagan marketing proposal.
I will make a motion.
Support.
And
And
I'll take the roll. Sorry. All right, Mayor Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Cuevas,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Faber,
Yes.
Dr. Gorman,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Huizenga,
Yes.
Mr. McComb, Ms. Seeger,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Pugh Walters,
Yes.
and Chair Weatherall Neal.
yes, thank you. And so I may need help with this part, but I'm going to ask if we have any public comments, and I don't know how to get them if they're in the chat room. So I'm going to ask Craig or Julie or someone to help me if there are any public comments.
It doesn't appear that there's any attendees requesting any public comment. So unless there is any amongst the panelists.
Thank you. With that, then the board members can, we will go through and ask for comments from the board members. Thank you. And I can't see you all, so someone start and I can see you. I will start with Jerry McCall.
I'd just like to thank everyone for their support and dedication for the Grand Rapids Framal Zone. It is so successful. I talked to so many of our boys and girls that are seniors this year, and they are so excited for GRCC. So thanks again for your support and love for our boys and girls.
Good, thank you, Jerry, for that. And then I'm gonna go to Dave because I see you on my screen, and Dave Favor.
Well, I want to echo what Jerry said. I just want to thank everyone for their hard work. This is phenomenal what has been pulled together in such a short period of time. And Teresa, for your vision for the Grand Rapids Public Schools, the way they stepped up and also took the lead in getting Canary on board and moving this thing along. So I'm just really grateful to everyone, and it's great to see so many students involved.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Gorman, please.
Yes, thank you. I would like to congratulate the almost 800 graduates from the Grand Rapids Public Schools. They had to graduate virtually, which thank you to Grand Rapids Community College for allowing that to happen. We are still very hopeful that we will be able to graduate our students in person, or at least recognize in person. So a tremendous shout out to Grand Rapids Community College for helping us with that, and our students who will be matriculating to higher education.
Nice. Good, thank you. And J.C. Heisinger.
Well, I'm grateful for your leadership, Teresa, and I'm honored to serve with such an esteemed commission.
Thank you, thank you. Tom, I don't see you, but I know that you are there.
Yeah, thank
Chair,
you.
Vice Chair.
I'm here. I may have missed this given the Zoom conversations and things that we're going through. I was just kind of curious to know from somebody at CC, to what extent are you seeing an increase, uptick in applications? And I'm also curious to know what kind of percentage of prospects you've got on the hook right now.
I can, thank you, Tom. This is Lisa. I'm not sure, are you asking specifically Promise Zone students, in which case I'm going to turf that to Evan to share those numbers, or do you want more of a general overview on enrollment?
I was curious if on general overview of enrollment, if you've seen any sort of an uptick just based on historical trends.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Certainly our summer enrollment is very close to our target, our budgeted plan for summer. Although we are entirely online with, as Dr. Pink mentioned, some of our students, very small numbers coming back, specifically those students where we had to stop programming in March because they needed to be on campus. And that summer enrollment's about 3% behind last summer, to give you a projection. For fall, it is way early for us to begin tracking fall. We are tracking, we are behind, but it is way early in the enrollment season for that to have too much meaning for us at this point in time. We are seeing great numbers with Promise Zone students. Evan is doing a fabulous job with outreach and really staying on top of that and supporting students as they go through the process from matriculation right through an actual enrollment in courses. So we are seeing very strong numbers there. Again, overall, from this exact point in time last year, we are down fairly significantly. Although with everything that students have been through in the past couple of months with the virtual finishing up of high school, we weren't in high schools doing FAFSA nights, face-to-face. We weren't doing a lot of that outreach. A lot of that's happening virtually now. We are doing virtual orientations 3 times a week, I think. We are confident those numbers will pick back up, and it's because of the vast uncertainty right now. I think a lot of students are simply waiting to see what happens. We are hearing a lot anecdotally that our numbers could be significantly higher this year because students are making choices to stay local versus potentially going away to school. But very, very early for us.
That makes sense. I was just curious about that. It's not decisions to stay local as well as just delays in making decisions whatsoever. It's pretty
Lots
common
of delay.
It's common for us in the K-12s too. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Trying times. Kate Pugh Walters, I would ask any comment.
I have no comments. I'm excited about the possibilities for kids in Grand Rapids.
Thank you. Thank you. And Diana?
You know, I couldn't leave this meeting without making comment.
I love it.
I love y'all. And Chair Neal, again, grace to you. You know,
oh, thank you.
Things like that, and you know, we're all doing what we can do. We have to just like forgive each other.
Yes.
So I just have to say this is that I want to really recognize how difficult the times are right now, the centuries of oppression, and Teresa, I heard you know, and so the Promise Zones, the Challenge Scholars can really try to address this. And Evan, I just have to say to you, Chris Cutsley is ready to work with you. I know that you've reached out. So you know, because a lot of donors have been asking, so what about Challenge Scholars and Promise Zones? So let's work together and weave together. And it's just been, it's been a beyond tough time, and we need to stay resilient and move through these tough times, because it's gonna, we need to address all the racism, the oppression and whatever, but you know, if Promise Zones, if Challenge Scholars can really make a dent, let's do it. So
that's right, sister. That's right. Hats off for your statement, Diana. I would like to ask the mayor, Mayor Bliss.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent. So a couple of things. One, I just want to thank everyone for their incredible hard work over the last few months, especially as we have pivoted quickly during the pandemic and COVID. It's really amazing the amount of work that we've been able to accomplish. And so thank you to everyone who's worked so hard, including Josh, everyone at Canary, but also Grcc. So I just want to heartfelt thanks to the hard work during these trying times. And I just want to echo what Diana said, you know, as we as a community to dig deep, to really genuinely confront racism and address the racial disparities that exist in our city. I believe that the Promise Zone is part of the answer. It's not the only answer. There's a whole lot of work we need to do in a lot of spaces in the city, but the Promise Zone is going to be key to creating a more equitable city. So thank you for your work. Diana, thank you for lifting that up during these really painful days. Painful, but filled with opportunity if we really come together. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Omar, please.
How can I follow the mayor? I want to say first and foremost that many parents, if they didn't appreciate their teachers and educators, they do now.
That's great.
They do now. I know I do. Appreciative of all that GRPS did for my children. And our communities of color, our children of color matter. And this Promise Zone scholarship provides them an opportunity for upward mobility and future career success. I want to recognize Josh's and Evan's work.
That's right.
To me, these gentlemen have represented, this is they're passionate about this work. And so I want to thank them publicly here for their work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And so I think I am have the last words, unless in case I forgot anyone, please say so. I just want to just really echo what everyone has said. I think that being an African-American person, growing up in the city, I just want to say thank you to all of you. And we can't take what we're doing lightly. This is going to change the lives of children. And we said it in the beginning, but now more than ever, we have to do it. Diana, I say thank you. Thank you for the Challenge Scholars, because this is a double blessing for children, you guys. We have the Challenge Scholars and we also have the Promise. It isn't one or the other. It is coming together to make this happen for children. And it's the Grand Rapids way, right? It is the Grand Rapids way to come together to do this on behalf of this community. Again, I apologize for my error. Thank you, Diana, for making that light for me. People that know me know that I don't like to do that, but I apologize for you guys just giving me grace. And thank you to the staff for helping me with the Zoom. This is not my style. You know, I like to be close to people. And so I got through it. I've been up worrying over this last night. We got to the end. So with that, I say thank you and meeting adjourned.
We are now Zoomers.